Welcome to NIF Conversations, where each time we discuss a book written by a New India Foundation fellow. And for this episode, we have Dr. S.V. Srinivas, who's the author of this wonderful social history of Telugu cinema called Politics as Performance. And let me begin with something which is, of course, a very interesting and important feature of life in India, which is regional rivalries. And there have been, of course, some first-rate social histories of Tamil film. And yours is probably the first serious scholarly book on Telugu film. And as you show in your book, the history of Telugu cinema is itself interwoven with the history of, in a kind of antagonistic relationship with Tamil cinema. So tell us a little bit about that.
Not Tamil, I would say it's more like a rivalry between Hyderabad and Madras as potential housing sites for the film industry. I think the story begins in Madras, as we all know. I mean, and it begins with producers who are actually making films in two languages, actors who are crossing over money that was, moving between the two industries, and so on. Between Telugu, Tamil, and later, Kannada joins the picture as well. Now, the interesting thing that happens is that as sound films start getting made in larger numbers, a complaint starts being heard that Madras is not suitable to make Telugu films.
Okay. At this start, what is the period?
1940. To put an exact date to it, 1940. The big Telugu melodramas have just been made, Malapilla and Raitu Bidda. And the person who is saying this is actually the maker of these films, Goodwill Rambrahmam.
Right.
So he says that you don't have the actors to embody Telugu-ness in Madras. So you have to move out and you have to go to where they are actually. So that's his complaint, and it's 1940. But that doesn't stop the industry from actually, the Telugu film industry or the Madras film industries, if you like, Telugu arm, from growing stronger and stronger over the next couple of decades. So there is, in that sense, something of a of a love-hate relationship with Madras as far as Telugu cinema is concerned.
Continue, or would you say now that everything has moved to Hyderabad and Vizag?
Yes, everything has now moved. In fact,
But to go back to the the 40s and the 50s and the rise of the Telugu film and its relocation or partial relocation, you also talk about, you link it to the story of agricultural and economic growth in Andhra. Yes. And that's what's fascinating about your book, because film is, of course, culture, it's entertainment, it's passion, it's romance, but it's also interwoven with society, politics, economics and history. And that's what you show, the rise of Andhra capitalism and so on.
Okay, let me put it like a tall claim I've made, and it's taken me more than 400 pages to kind of demonstrate substantiate that claim, is that the story of Andhra Pradesh, then it was, when I completed the book, it was still united Andhra Pradesh, one Andhra Pradesh, cannot be separately told or told independently of the story of Telugu cinema. And therefore it cannot be told independently of Madras as the capital of, the presidency of the undivided presidency, as the capital of the film industry to begin with, as the place which in some ways produced N.T. Ramarao, Nageshwar Rao, all the way up to Chiranjeevi. These are all stars made in Madras. They were their first or their early successes were actually made in Madras. So that is one part of the story. The second is that the story of Telugu cinema is also the story of a certain kind of politics.
What do you mean by a certain kind of
performative politics? If you like, to put it very, very negatively, it's if you like drama-bazi.
Drama-bazi, okay.
And today,
that's I think a crude and unfair term. It's because it's got a flair and excitement about it.
Absolutely. But I think it actually captures something. It captures the performative element. Without making any without making any bones about it. I'm saying that this is a certain kind of politics which at a certain moment in Indian history, and it is perhaps traceable to Indira Gandhi.
Yes.
And perhaps to do with the spread of literacy and other media.
Right.
But after a certain point, you realize that it is no longer confined to either film stars who initially seem to have mastered the idiom. MGR as one, as an early pioneer. N.T. Ramarao as a very obvious case of it. He was nicknamed Rama Rao, and a lot of criticism of the way in which he spoke in public, speaks in a Telugu which is actually a fake, pseudo-classical Telugu. Okay, it's not clear whether anybody ever spoke that Telugu in the last 200 years, right? But it has to do with theatre, it has to do with mythological films and so on. So here's somebody who actually speaks like a drama actor or a film star. And clearly it was not out of place. It was not out of place, because obviously he had captured something about, the way in which you communicate with perhaps a largely unlettered public, a public which had initially cultivated in the cinema hall,
and
then he moves over. I mean,
So your book starts in the 30s, 40s, goes to the shift, and of course the development of Telugu cinema, the links with agriculture, the zamindari crisis, and all of that. And then, of course, there's a great chapter on N.T. Ramarao. Now, particularly for younger Indians, there is no comparison. The closest comparison you could have is with the Aam Aadmi Party's victory in the Delhi Assembly, which was about 3 years ago. But Delhi is a tiny state. Here you're talking about a large state like Andhra Pradesh. You're talking about a state where the Congress is unconquerable.
Absolutely.
I mean, in 1977, when the Congress is humiliated in North India, it wins, I think, every seat in Andhra. Almost 42 seats it wins. And here is a man, all he has is...
He's 300 films.
300 films. He doesn't even have 300 rupees. He has his own money, but his party does not have 300 rupees. And you tell us a little bit about how this man. I mean, I remember it. I was 25. You were much younger. But younger Indians would know. I mean, how could a person with 300 films and no political experience? I don't think he had given political speeches before.
No.
Defeat the mighty Congress party. It's as if, I mean, the closest analogy would be a Gujarati film star defeating the BJP in Gujarat today. I mean, if that is...
I think it's a good comparison.
So tell us about, that's a great chapter in your book.
Let's begin with the story that's currently being told. Currently, the story or at least it was being told in the 90s or till the 90s was that Congress had deconstructed itself like everywhere else in Andhra as well. Now that's absolutely not true. If you look at the career of Congress in Andhra, actually it was quite strong by that when NTR announced his candidacy.
That's right.
Right? So there is no indication to suggest that Congress had eroded, its popularity had eroded. So it's all the more surprising. So you cannot say, Congress was anyway on its way out and this man just comes and gives it a gentle nudge.
Because later on it comes back.
Absolutely,
So it has
that too. And it comes back precisely on the strength of the very man who is the exemplar of bad Congress politics. He is horse-trading Channa Reddy, a brilliant politician, and from Telangana too, which means doesn't even have the access of coastal Andhra resources. He's a horse trader. He's somebody who is not trusted. So of course he's replaced by obviously lesser politicians, but NTR eventually is brought down by Channa Reddy, which means he's brought down by classic Congress politics. In a manner of speaking. But his election is remarkable because precisely because nobody thought, no serious political analyst thought that Congress could lose. I mean, there was huge popularity, but there would anyway be huge popularity if a film actor stepped out onto the street.
That's it,
Right? So, I mean, anyway, there would be people crowding around him, and many people questioned. They thought, yes, remarkable, energy. This man is going from, literally from village to village on the road. So, he's got, incredible opportunities to show himself, display himself in public and, wave hands and make impromptu speeches. The story went that everywhere anywhere he saw 20 people, he would stop his van and give a speech. Okay, so he was actually on a mass contact kind of a program, which was unprecedented in Indian politics after.
Also, it was playing on the wounding of Andhra pride by Delhi.
Exactly. So what was the agenda? He says, we are Telugus, and he says anybody who is a Dakhini-speaking old city Muslim, Hyderabad old city Muslim, to a proper, Vijayawada or Gudivada, he's kind of free, he's part of the, Krishna district. Everybody is Telugu. Right? So, first of all, it's an inclusive, it's as I sort of use Miriam Hanson's phrase, it's indiscriminately inclusive. He can count anybody as Telugu. So, anyone could be an honorary Telugu and part of his Telugu Desam. That's one. The second thing is, obviously, when you're looking at the high and mighty as well as the poorest of the poor, there's nothing in common. So, he picks on, as K. Balagopal.
He's the bridge.
He's the bridge. And what does he pick on? He says, our poverty is because the center is treating us unfairly. Okay, we are not developed because the center is treating us unfairly. So it's the stepmotherly attitude of the center that's responsible for what is pretty much the situation that you see anywhere in India. People are poor, people are uneducated, there are crimes against women, the farmers are not getting their due, there is distress, so you can say this today. I mean, today I suppose you can blame the current government or the NDA could have blamed Congress. Whoever comes to power can just blame everything on this one entity. In his case, it was the center. So it was largely emotional. The appeal was largely emotional. I think it was the remarkable thing about it is that it was very, very inclusive. It was his politics may not have been inclusive in the sense that it's not as if it's genuinely distributing power to the unrepresented. I wouldn't go that far. Although the backward castes were much better represented in his party apparently than the Congress. Okay? That apart, but that also people have pointed out came at the cost of Dalit representation. He chose, as it were, to bank on the OBCs rather than.
So, I mean, if you look at how things change, this is 1983. Now, 30 years later, this unified Telugu identity becomes two states. How would someone like NTR have looked at the creation of Telangana? Would he look at it as a betrayal or?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I suppose if there was a successful NTR type figure, the problem that the formation of Telangana in some ways crystallizes, brings to the forefront, which is that which is the presidency Andhra and the Nizam Andhra, if you want to call it that, or the Hyderabad, part of Telangana, the Nizam's dominions were never actually fully integrated. Okay, they remained distinct. They remained distinct for good reason. They were historically distinct. Okay, they had no prior, there was no prior medium which you could claim was something that they shared. The dialects were, as we know very clearly, and it's a large population, so obviously there will be differences of dialect and food and everything else. So given that, I think what NTR actually managed to do was to create a kind of a common ground and as temporarily
paper over those
differences, or at least create a sense of a sense of togetherness and identity by first of all creating a common enemy, which was the Delhi administration, the central government, and B, giving them something which they had in common, which was cinema. They literally had the two. What else did they have in common? You ask that question. You can't say the Telugu classics were read because the Telugu classics were read by very few people. You can't say Telugu literature was read. It was again, given literacy levels, it was not read by very many. Telugu newspapers were only then gaining a larger toehold, but even so, Enadu, which was the biggest newspaper, it had a which backed him. That too had a very limited circulation in Telangana. So cinema was the only form which the Telugus at that point of time could have said is a form we have in common. It was the one common cultural form that
which allowed you to tell this wonderful social history. So we've been discussing this fabulous book by Srinivas, Politics as Performance, and what it shows us is that you can take something which is purely entertainment, like film, and tell a much larger social, political and economic history of the state of Andhra Pradesh. Thank you so much, SV, for being with us. I think one of the attractions of this book, apart from the prose and the research, is the fabulous range of illustrations it has. So it's really a multimedia book, and we are delighted to have published it through the New India Foundation.